Welcome, Sagittarius, to your in-depth monthly horoscope for January 2024 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you some standout details to look out for, but please stay with me. I will explore in much greater depth all the ins and outs, particularly relevant to your sign. Now, as you start this new year, as usual, the Sun is in the sign of Capricorn. But there's a rare situation because this year also sees Mercury in retrograde in your sign, along with Mars, very close together, but also the rather coquettish energies of Venus. The first house is very much about our individual talents, our qualities, and our need to feel recognised on the basis of our own key personality qualities and flair. So that's going to be a big part of the story for year 2004 for you. You need to cut through and really feel that you're deeply invested and involved in whatever activity you're in. The other thing to tell you is that Jupiter, your ruler, is forging a really fantastic link to the Sun at the start of this year, but also to Mars. So can't wait to share that with you. A lot of excitement right at the start of this new year for you. As we make our way into year 2024, if you would like to understand what this will mean for you in a totally individual way and ascend above this zodiac broadcast, please give me 3 pieces of your birth data of time, date and place, or date and place if you don't know your time, and I'll produce for you your 12-month forecast. This will be a full 12 months from the time of your order, unless you order in the latter part of 23, and I'll give you the rest of that year for free. But along with your 12-month forecast, which will give you searing insights, you can also get your character analysis report, your life roadmap. That gives you a much more intimate understanding of the influences that have played out in your whole life and how you can work with them. Also, you'll get your zodiac forecast for each of the 12 signs, your Indian Vedic forecast, and your Chinese forecast for year 2024, all free of charge. Please see the link beneath this video for more. So Sagittarius, as you make your way into year 2024, the Sun is angling to your ruler Jupiter. They actually were exactly in a trine, the most beneficial of all planetary aspects, on the 27th of December. But Jupiter, if you recall, had been retracing its steps for the last 4 months of year 2023. If your energy, your physical vitality had dipped a little bit, possibly had something to do with it. Maybe with Uranus in this part of your situation as well, things were changeable or a little bit unstructured in terms of your work, or it's been difficult to perhaps sleep as much as you would like. Uranus in the 6th house, potentially very disruptive. But as you go into this new year, the Sun and Jupiter are still close enough in touch to give you a feel-good vibe. And that feel-good could be to do with money. I know that with Pluto going through your 2nd solar house since 2008, it probably has been a time where you're constantly trying to evaluate, change and adapt in order to make your way and forge a firm foundation for your existence. It's going to be something very important happening across the 20th and the 21st that I'll visit shortly. But I feel that that link to Jupiter from the Sun does give you a chance to move forwards. Also, the 2nd sees Mercury move forwards in your sign and come out of its retrograde, so that's really good. But I have to say that Mercury and Mars are very close together at the start of this year, and that could see you a bit rash, a bit impulsive at times. So it's going to be important to make sure that you get information really clear in your mind before making any key moves. And the reason for this is not just that Mars and Mercury can be a bit impulsive, it's that they square up with Neptune, and Neptune has a tendency to distort. And what you've got a conflict here is between your need to activate your individuality, the 1st house, competing with the part of your situation where you need security, stability and nurture, and the two aren't really working in a collective way. They're actually in some ways a bit conflicted to one another. So Neptune can be quite tricky. It's important, as you found towards the end of last year, that things shift and aren't always as they seem. So try to work through that energy by drilling down into details with a bit of care and not being too reactive. But also on the very first day of this new year, the moon is high in the sky. It's in the sign of Virgo, which can be a little bit picky, but it's good for getting organised, of course. But it is opposed by the strict energies of Saturn. So whether it's home or work, something could be a bit tense at the start of this month, particularly as those two influences then T-square with Venus. So Venus gives you a push to hit the sales, buy some clothes and give your personal presentation some kind of makeover. But just be aware that someone close to you may have something to say that you could find to be a little bit unhelpful. Perhaps it's an odd word of faint praise, which feels like it's really not very encouraging at all. Or it could be that your family or work situation are a bit inhibited on that part of you that does need to be a free spirit. And that really is when Sagittarius people are shining at their best. But just be aware, if we take the position of the moon, Virgo, the sun in Capricorn, and we get the midpoint between the two, the midpoint of this new year as it begins is actually at 8 degrees in Scorpio. And that suggests that your financial situation could be something that you can really work on and potentially improve quite significantly throughout year 2024. So even if things do feel a bit inhibited to begin with, stick with the process. And you get a clue about this on the 4th, because Mars hustle bustles out of your sign into Capricorn. It loves being here, it's very productive, but something you have been imagining, setting your intentions on, could start to forge up in a more substantive way, which could be very pleasing. There's also a very supportive link between Mars and Jupiter that goes from the 7th to the 17th, but becomes exact on the 12th. If you think about it, Jupiter is about expansion and trade. Mars is about our ego, but also about confidence, and it's about action. You put these two together in a positive relationship, they feel that they will have some success. And because both are in earth signs, that's very much about the material world. So your decisiveness and also your hard work can render a result. But also the new moon is linking to Uranus, the other planet in your 6th house of work and sacrifice and structures. And that's saying that if you're prepared to think outside the box, never a problem for a Sagittarius, that also can see an opportunity to develop where you're being very anticipatory about where a trend is going, and you're seeing some opportunities that other people may not be recognizing. So it's a terrific new moon, and the month following the 11th of January through to the 11th of February could really see some breakthroughs for you. Now, of course, Mercury did go direct on the 2nd, but it has been in your sign, and it is conflicted by Neptune for the first 12 days of this month. So it wouldn't be a complete surprise, despite some of the positive stuff going on, that your nervous system felt a little bit low in verve. On the 14th, that can change. Mercury moves into your 2nd house. Last there on the 23rd of December, joins up with Mars, joins up with the Sun, and critically with Pluto. But from the 17th to the 22nd, it's Venus that's squared up by Neptune. The reason that this requires some care is that Venus in your own sign is making you perhaps more single-minded about what you want in terms of your romantic situation, but also in terms of your creative gifts. And Neptune in the 4th house could see you doubt yourself, perhaps set up some self-sabotaging thinking, or perhaps lack a little bit of the structure that you need to really work forwards with this, because Neptune can be a very dissipating energy. So if there's something that you're really invested in and you really like, you're going to need to stick with it. However, on the 20th, the Sun and Pluto come into an exact conjunction. This will be the last time that this happens in this sign. So this won't happen for many, many years. And what will happen later on the 20th is the Sun makes its way into Aquarius. But for you, this second house is a marking point. Think back to 2008. How far have you come? Because on the 21st, Pluto moves to join with Aquarius. Interestingly, it's Pluto's birthday. Also, Mercury comes out of its post-retrograde shadow. And it gives you an opportunity to think about how you'd like your life to change, because Pluto going through the second house has been a lot to do with working out what you stand for, your self-worth, the core values, the foundations in your world, but also perhaps understanding things about diet and nutrition. And also, if you are someone who's had to recreate a way of earning money, it's probably been quite the journey. So Pluto moving along with the Sun into the third house is going to transform your thinking and your potentially your belief systems in some ways, but also your connections to others. Big connections are going to change for you. For sure, Pluto comes back into Capricorn on the 2nd of September to the 19th of November. But just be aware that the big picture for you here is that certainly in terms of technology, you can be at the heart of it. If you've got things to say and express, that can become crucial to the development of your situation. Your connections to siblings can also alter, and also you can become much more involved in the community elements of your life. If you have felt perhaps a little bit more protected, you're going to feel much more outgoing and want to connect, mix and mingle. It's going to be a big journey. But on the 23rd, I've got great news for you, because after all the struggles that you've had with money, you're going to have something really good happen. And it's going to happen in that last week of January, and it's absolutely going to thrill you. Also, Jupiter, your ruler, is in a square with the Sun. If you are having a discussion about providing a service to anyone, going for a job, it's important that you don't overstate your qualifications, because you could end up over-promising and then putting a lot of pressure on yourself in terms of delivering. But generally, your optimism, persuasion, and great ability to absorb lots of different pieces of information is really going to be seen as an asset. We have a full moon on the 25th in your sister fire sign of Leo. The Sun in Aquarius is opposite that, of course, but both are in conflict with your ruler Jupiter. But to be honest, this is one of the milder squares. Jupiter can make the Sun very generous. It can also make the moon feel a lot of warmth as well. Just remember where Jupiter is. It's in a very practical area. And the Sun is in house 9, that part of you that likes freedom and independence and travel. And the Sun is in house 3, those everyday conversations and connections. So balancing the different areas are going to be important. For example, if you want to travel, Jupiter could see you get caught up in that, and then you'll realise that you've got commitments. So a time not to rush, and certainly be careful with the statements you make at the end of the month, because this particular full moon each year is asking you to choose your words very carefully. And certainly Jupiter can bring a more vibrant, upbeat situation into the equation, but Jupiter in Taurus is quite anchored, and it is to do with sacrifice. But generally speaking, I feel that you're going to get some rewards by the end of this month, perhaps before, in fact, Sagittarius. And all the struggles that have gone on since 2008, you're going to start to make a lot more sense of what they mean and why they occurred and what you've gained from the process. It's been a real pleasure being with you. I'd like to wish you all the very best for year 2024. And if you'd like a one-to-one with me, please see the link underneath this video. But for now, if you care to like, comment, share or subscribe, that would be lovely.